traveling in a fried-out Kombi.
Please welcome to the stage KPMG's Chief Information Officer, Chris Robinson.
I met a strange lady, she made me nervous. She took me in and gave me breakfast. And she said, "Do you come from a land down under?"
Good morning. They briefed me outside to not use the banana to try and advance the slides, but use this one. Why have I got a banana in my hand, you may ask? It's not some lame joke about the next Apple or BlackBerry. It's not, for those of you from Australia who know anything about the Australian banana market, when I first got to Australia, I'm an English guy. I moved down there about 18 months ago. And bananas cost a few cents then. We had hurricanes. These things cost about the price of a small house now in Australia. So I'm always excited when I come to America to actually get to eat them. Why the banana? I want to tell you a story about a banana and a 22-year-old woman graduate. More specifically, around a question about how to peel a banana that started our quest at KPMG's quest to harness the information that our people have, to find better ways and better tools to collaborate. We, as an organization, are a bunch of accountants, but we're also advisors, and in many of our geographies, we have more people who are working in our advisory business than actually work on accounting, work on auditing, work on all those boring, pretty things that my audit friends would not like me to call them boring, and they're not. They're huge experts in the financial industry. But we have some more exciting roles, perhaps, in the company. We have undercover cops who do forensic audit work. We have some of the world's best IT security people. We have 22-year-old women graduates. And the banana story goes like this. One day, a management consultant was asked by one of our clients, "I need help with an ancient problem. There's never actually been a proper automated way to peel bananas." Now, that client was a fruit smoothie manufacturer and peeled millions of bananas. And he said, "Can you actually help me with this? If you build a machine, it damages the fruit. If you pay lots of people to do it, it costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time." So that management consultant went back to the firm. And he asked the manufacturing experts. And he asked our retail experts. And he asked our technology experts. And I guess after the 100th answer of put a lot of intelligent monkeys in a room and train them up, he thought, I'm going to have to go back to the client. I'm going to have to tell him we don't know what we're doing. Then a 22-year-old woman graduate who'd just joined our firm came forward. And she said, "I think I know the answer to this. I'm doing a PhD. If you put a banana in an airtight, well, lots of bananas in an airtight chamber, and you take the air out and you make a vacuum, and then you put the air back in, and you take the air out again, and you put it back in. You do that a third time. By the time you put the air back in, it loosens the skin. The skins fall off." So they tried that. It worked. The result, one very happy client, one consultant who was able to do a lot of extra work for that client. And that started our quest, as I say, to look at a way that we could start to leverage people within the firm who are our 22-year-olds. One of our challenges as an organization is we're about 150,000 people, about 1,000 offices in 140 countries. And we have an aspiration to actually grow that by an additional 100,000 people over the next 5 years. Now, all of you in all of your organizations will have some of those sort of headcount targets. And we all face the same challenge, I guess. One, how to find that amount of people. There's plenty of people out there in the market, But what we're looking for is extremely high quality graduates, extremely high quality people. And once you've found them, how to actually attract them into the firm. Compensation is important, but as they say, you don't win all your sales deals on price. You don't attract all your employees on compensation. What we needed was a way of attracting people into a firm, the Gen Ys, the millennials, and a culture that allowed them to actually thrive in there in a climate where they're no longer planning to spend 20 years keeping their head down, working hard, and at the end of it, being made potentially a partner in our partnership. So keeping them, finding them, attracting them, giving them a positive day one experience, making them feel part of a community, making them feel that they contribute. Like our 22-year-old, were all the sort of key drivers we had in looking at our social collaboration platform. And I'll talk about it later, but one of the biggest single advantages in terms of the ROI on the investment we've made in social platforms has been on that retention front. Now, we lose, and this is normal in our industry, about 1 in 5 staff each year. On the sort of numbers I'm talking about, that's 30 to 40,000 people. Now, we're always going to have people who come in, spend a few years, find it too hard, we don't find them good enough, they want to go off and change the world. That's part and parcel of the professional services industry. We get a lot of people who are alumni, and we want them to go off, join industry, come back at some stage and buy services off us. But I guess we're facing what I'd call the perfect storm at the moment. We've got a lot of our senior people, our partners, our directors, who are the baby boomers. They're the people who are in their late 40s or in their 50s, are going to be leaving the firm in the next 10 years. And with them, they're taking a lot of knowledge, a lot of IP. And they came from a generation where knowledge is power, where your clients, where what you knew about your clients, where what you knew about your industry got you promoted, got you to where you were. But at the other end of the scale, we've got our Gen Ys coming in. And they come from a totally different angle. We're actually sharing this power, where they're digital natives. They've grown up with tools, Facebook, LinkedIn, MySpace before that. They share perhaps too much in some instances. But we've got these two different pulls, both of which lead us to the same place, which is we need a way of harnessing quickly the information we've got in people like our 22-year-old and extracting information from the people who are going to be leaving the firm in the next few years. And when I come back to talk about 20 years of the sort of bargain you make when you originally join a professional services firm, people aren't going to work for that long now. We all know that the dynamics of the workplace are changing. People want a portfolio career. They want to join an organization that's got a great culture. They may choose to stay for several years, but they may want to move on after 2 or 3, 4 years. And when you look at productivity, I think the average time to productivity of a new employee is about 45 days. In a white-collar professional services organization, it's about 9 months. So if you're investing 9 months, your time to bring in somebody in to be productive, you want to make them feel that they're going to stay with that organization for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And a key part of that is making them feel part of a community on day one, feeling valued, feeling that they can add their contributions into the firm if they choose to, or at least be able to observe conversations that are going on. And here's where social tools, social collaboration, Tibber in particular, allows us to bring people into the community, create profiles, create communities, join communities. They don't all necessarily have to be around the financial services industry or tax compliance. They can be about a variety of things, but at least they feel they're joining them. We've got 2 or 3 key challenges. One, I'd say, is that a lot of people choose to leave any organization because of silo and hierarchy. Now, this might not be quite correct in terms of how those hierarchies work at those firms. Please don't quote me on it. But I think You know, Vivek talked yesterday about the corporation becoming a jazz band. And I think taking that theme, you know, we're looking to make any organization more like a Facebook and an Apple. You need hierarchy. I'm not suggesting that everyone within every firm is going to make every decision, but you want to connect your people better. And if you've got a hugely hierarchical organization, or indeed if you've got one, and believe me, we're a heavily regulated industry, we're a heavily risk-averse industry, we need to be to protect our client confidentiality. But where you've got those sort of risk departments where you knock on the door and they say, the answer's no, what's the question? You know that you've got a challenge in terms of younger people coming in and saying, I don't really conform to that sort of style of organization. So our challenge is, how do we change hierarchy so that it isn't one of the top 3 reasons people leave? But it is quite often given as exactly that. What we're running at KPMG is what I call the 3 C's powered by the 3 M's. The 3 C's, culture, content, connectivity. I've talked about harnessing that information that is in people's heads. We've heard a lot here, and I'm sure we will hear a lot more here about big data. I'll talk about that later. But getting the right content, having policies around what we want people to be sharing, absolutely crucial. Culture, I'll talk about that later, but a culture where people feel that they want to share, where they no longer feel that knowledge is power and hoarding is acceptable. And connectivity, the tools, TIBA being an important one for us, that allows people to do what 5 or 10 years ago they wouldn't have been able to do. And that brings me on to the 3 M's. Moore's Law. Technology gets twice as good, half as cheap every 18 months. 5, 10 years ago, so a lot of the technology we use internally now, a lot of the technology you're hearing about today, that just wasn't there, or if it was there, the return on investment, the cost was just too high. So that's Moore's Law, one of my M's. Metcalfe's Law is that the power of a network grows exponentially with the number of users. You've got one telephone, you've got one person on a social network, that's not really going to be much use. You get 2, you're getting somewhere. You get 4, you haven't got 4 possible connections. You've got 8, you've got 8 people, you've got 64, etc. And you put social collaboration tools together with the right technology, and you're starting to get those connections across your 150,000 people. Final one is Milgram. Milgram was the guy who did 6 degrees of separation. Now what he said is we're all separated from somebody in the world, or perhaps from some information that somebody in the world has, by 6 steps. Now that's great, but back to my example of the 22-year-old, we would never have found the answer to that question if we'd have had to go through 6 different layers of people and somebody who knew somebody else. So what we're trying to do, and what the best organizations are now aiming to do, is to bring those 5 to 6 steps back to 1 or 2. You all know somebody who knows someone who knows the answer. This isn't my office or my doll collection. This is a slide that talks about hoarding. I've talked and mentioned hoarding. It is one of the killers in terms of the ability to share information within an organization. Professional services firms have thrived on an eat what you kill environment, and quite often that has led to people saying, I'm not going to share with others, I'm going to have silo behaviors, I'm going to make sure my clients remain my clients, and I'm not going to share them. Again, having tools that allow people to challenge that, very, very important to us. Final challenge, and I said I'd talk about big data. Big data is very, very important for us as a firm. We see great opportunities in terms of those things around predictive analysis that will allow us to look at future trends. But again, as Vivek talks about in the 2-second advantage, the Netflix prize. Netflix film recommendations done by real people, and then a prize to say, well, how can you automate that? When you actually looked at how much that was actually improved, I think it was about 10% by using automated algorithms, above the actual people element of it. And our social tool brings together the people in the organization in an automated fashion, because they are the ones who are going to make sense of that data ultimately. I won't focus on this, just on two quick things. Mavenism. I talked about 1-2 steps of separation. A Maven, you might have read Gladwell's Tipping Point book. Maven's been around as a term for a long time. A Maven is somebody who knows a lot of people who know things. So they're able to bring people together quite quickly. Put that together with T-shaped management. And T-shaped management means understanding one thing very, very well and very, very deeply, but having a broad, that's your horizontal of the T, knowledge about lots of things. So, I'm asked a lot about what is the ROI on this technology. Is it a technology toy? Why are you putting in social media tools into an organization? And there's a lot of things on that slide that tell you why, but a lot of them are more soft. They are harder to put real dollar values on day one. For me, for KPMG, retention is the key one. 30,000 people leaving each year, that's a huge cost. Recruitment costs, lost productivity, lost IP, and if you can reduce that by 10, 15, 20, 30, 50%, you're talking of hundreds of millions of dollars in a firm like ours. Now, I don't even need it to bring in $100 million to pay back more than 10 times what we're actually spending in terms of our initial investments. So to close, here are some positive comments. Nearly all our comments are positive in terms of what people have thought and found in the tools we've rolled out. But like the story of the benevolent dolphin, and that is, we've all heard the stories of sailors fall overboard on a ship. The dolphin comes along, pushes them to safety on the shore. The challenge is, have we ever heard of the stories of the dolphins that push the wrong way? Probably not. What we're trying to say in this is we do want people telling us the bad news stories as well as the good ones. I read an article in the UK press, I think recently, that said Americans are the politest people on earth. I'd probably argue it's the English, but I think they're both pretty good. The politest people on earth until you get online. Not all of you, and not there's people in this room, I hope, but in general, people see online as a way in which they can exhibit behaviors they wouldn't exhibit face-to-face, to be rude, to express opinions that may be a little bit bigoted. What we're trying to do is say, we want an environment where you can constructively challenge those issues that are things like using hierarchy, are things like hoarding. And so we want to know the bad news as well as the good news, but in a constructive way. And as a final strapline for our Tibber implementation, I'd say we're positioning it as a platform where people can share what they know. I'll mention the 22-year-old many times, learn what they don't. And that is the future for us of social collaboration. Thank you.